Several months later have gone by since the siege of Tyros. Time well spent on recruiting and replenishing our forces for our invasion of Egypt. Now I stand before Jerusalem, ready to seize its treasures and high walls. Reinforcing my endeavor is my newly formed siege regiment, bringing both ballistas and elite Syrian war elephants. The walls won't stand a chance. Most of our forces, including our reinforcements, will attack from the south, but I've sent a small detachment of Thracian Falksmen and Phrygian slingers over to the western approach, in an attempt to sneak inside the settlement without being recognized. With the equipment now in place, it is time to begin. Our siege crafts will fire relentless volleys at the walls, creating 2 access points, one at each side of the main gate. Once made, our Syrian war elephants will charge through, making it easy for my hoplites to enter. A few of my pikemen will burn down the gate to enter the courtyard. It will be dangerous, true, but worth it. The enemy archers will hopefully focus on them rather than the other units. Few of our elephants went over to assist our Thracian forces, who got spotted early on. The rest would run through the streets and appear behind enemy lines for devastating rear charges. The last standing Egyptians tried to protect the royal palace, but being too focused on the pikemen ahead of them, they never saw the countless 2-ton beasts smashing into them from behind. With the last hostile fortification taken, we are now in full control of the Levant. Well, if Attalus succeeded in taking Seleucia, no one could contest us. I wonder what that man is up to. No matter, with Jerusalem under my command, I could launch countless raids into Egypt. With my fleets blockading Alexandria, they're basically broken already. As far as I've heard, they made several attempts to break through. But of course my reliable admiral Herodes wouldn't let their foolish acts slip through the cracks of our defenses. Yet their pain and suffering could be over if they just did one thing. I am a merciful man and know after the death of Ptolemy they aren't gonna be a threat in the future. Mithridates, however, he is hiding somewhere in there. If not, no, I can't give any attention to that thought. His very existence disgraces me for eternity. I will have to end his life. I can only imagine he's staying at least near Alexandria. Still, this wasn't a fact and I wouldn't leave anything to chance. I left the siege regiment behind, they only slowed me down. Before they can arrive in Alexandria, I will be able to make a small detour through Memphis, which was the only other logical location for him to hide if he still were in Egypt. We actually made a rather peaceful occupation. My simple words of "I'm not here to hurt any of you, there's just this one man with a tongue like a snake, have any of you seen him?" seemed to be enough. Apparently that was enough for the citizens to hail me as the pharaoh. I'm flattered, especially as they immediately began recruiting workers for a new pyramid in my honor. But those magnificent structures are only meant for one thing. They are a massive tomb for the pharaohs of old. Whatever sick game the gods are playing right now, I don't want to know any more about it. About a month later, the ballistas finally arrived at Alexandria. It was incredible to see the waves of fireballs crash into the once majestic jewel of Africa. Who knows, maybe one of them hit Mithridates by accident. I hope not, he deserves worse. After the fall of their precious capital and Memphis, which they lost a month earlier, the nobles of Egypt surrendered, becoming a client state of Pergamon. But as it always seems to be, I didn't have time to search for Mithridates. Not even celebrate my victory. At last, I received the news of Attalus and his expedition in the east. The report begins about the same time as the siege of Jerusalem took place. Outside of Seleucia, he waited, hoping an opportunity would arrive. Specifically, it mentioned Saba and Parthia. The latter I'm not too familiar with myself. If they are at war with the Seleucids, I hope it is a national conflict and not against all Greeks. But back to the report, as his expectations came true. In a way, the last Seleucid forces pushed into the east, towards Parthian lands, leaving their only bastion vulnerable for the Arabians to sack it. This, of course, also allowed Attalus to peacefully march in and garrison the walls with his own Italic troops. Apparently, as the Seleucid warriors returned home, they got met with arrows at the gates, marking the end of their dynasty. I can't believe what I'm reading. The ones who tormented the reign of my uncle. The ones who worked with Antigonus Gonatas to find the true heir of Alexander but never knew it was me. The ones I fought and killed as they stood in my way are finally gone. I am the final Diadochi still standing. Unless... My thoughts got interrupted by my polemarch who encouraged me to read on. And rightfully so. The last sentence mentioned Attalus' intent to move north into Armenia. No mention of why or how. He didn't need to either, as I wanted to do it myself, but not now. I intended to attack them by surprise and swoop their territory off their feet. I need to move north, now. Of course, I couldn't leave the thought of abandoning my search for Mithridates like this. I ordered a small force to stay behind and turn every stone and cone of sand for his reeking body. As the village of Samosata came into view, my men prepared for combat. Attalus had already taken Gansak and Fraspa. It was about time I did something as well. Luckily, I had found another tactic at Alexandria I just barely had time to bring with me. Let's see if it actually works. The horns of the buffalo works like this. You have two horns, one at each flank. In the center you have the chest, and behind them is a reverse force called the loins. Let's see how effective this is. The enemy had gone much more extended than expected, so I quickly formed a half circle with the chest and loins. My horns used their mobility to get around the approaching forces and hit them from the side. With our ruthless strikes from our horns, the Armenian forces capitulated. A decisive victory. The tactics certainly seemed to prove useful. The Armenians instantly knew their forces were no match for mine and accordingly gave in just like the Egyptians. Not with all the formalities of a massive pyramid symbolizing my demise. Rather the best and yet worst news I could get. They had intercepted a message from Attalus in the past, meant for me. It was a fairly short letter this time, but more important than ever. It stated, Mithridates leads the armies of Parthia. He united with Bactria and took out the Mauryans, and now rule all of the east. I will march for Gansak at once to stop their advance, but watch out, we are outnumbered in this war and they know of this advantage. They are coming for you. Before you turn off this video, I would like to mention I've created the Patreon website. These videos take a lot of time to make, so any support would be more than what I hope for. But other than that, I would like to say thank you very much for watching. Until the next time everyone, goodbye and spread happiness.
At your command.